What's up, everybody? It's your boy Showtimedr coming at you. This is going to be my fun video for the week. I like to break up the monotony of, like, guides and etc. Just like, do this, you should try to do this, optimize for this. Like, try to break it up, have some fun. So I'm going to tell some stories today because people really like my stories. The topic of this video is going to be near-death experiences. Now, just for full disclosure, near-death experiences, I've never had anything that's like super violent or, disturbing or anything like that as far as a near-death experience. So don't, if you're afraid that, I don't know, your kids are around or whatever, and you're going to hear about a guy like fighting off or getting stabbed or something, that's never happened to me. So, don't have to worry about that. All of mine are just me being a dumbass usually. On occasion, just random chance, but me being a dumbass usually. But I would like you guys to as well, if you're comfortable with it, you can share some of your near-death experiences, and hopefully you can laugh it off now, or if not, don't feel the need to, if it's too traumatic for you, you don't have to go. I'm trying to tell stories in a more jovial manner, so I guess we'll get started. Now, I don't know if I should try to organize these by, like, the age I was. I guess I'll try to, but some are going to come up to where I'm not going to know, guys, like exactly what age I was. So, anyways, let's get started. So, my first near-death experience that I know... Let's see, which one happened first? I think they were around the same time, actually, but I think... No, this one happened first, okay. So, my parents divorced when I was 4, guys. So, my mom and dad, they would always do the custody swap back and forth, and depending on whose lawyer was better that month or whatever, one person would get me for more time than the other. So, there was a point in time where my mom got me more than my dad, and so we were living in Anaheim Hills. And there was an elementary school. I'm about, like, 7 or 8 at this point, something like that. And there's an elementary school up there, and so it's like, damn, I got to go fit in with a bunch of new kids. And I'm hearing it all, you got curly hair, you're tall, you're skinny, blah, 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 blah. Like everything they could possibly mock you for, they mock you for. And well, I remember there was this one kid there, and I completely forget names and whatever. I just remember he was like this white dude with like brown hair, I think it was. And he keeps coming up to me. And he has, like, his friends, and, we're playing Legos or eating fruit or whatever the hell we do in 3rd or 2nd grade. And he keeps coming up to me. He's like, there's ants in your hair. Talking about, and, like, I think the first time I probably looked, and there's no ants in my hair. And he keeps coming up to me, like, every day. There's ants in your hair. Ah! There's ants in your hair. And, like, all his friends would laugh. And what are you even talking about? Like, you don't make any sense. Go away. As a kid. Well, eventually we would take field trips, and some of the field trips were really cool, like going to museums or whatever, but in this particular one, we went to the pool, and I couldn't swim at the time. So I'm just sitting there, and I think I had, like, swim trunks on or whatever, but I can't swim, so I'm just, like, walking around and talking to people or whatever. Well, this same kid comes back to me, and he's like, you have ants in your hair and you need to wash them out. And he fucking pushes me in the pool. Now, this wasn't no, like, BS pool. This was like a 1980s pool, guys. This was like a 10-foot, 12-foot deep, whatever the hell pool. So he pushes me in, splash. And I just sink to the bottom. Luckily, I had enough awareness to, or muscle memory, I don't know what it even is, to hold my breath. But I remember I'm just like floating, floating. It's the deep end, floating, floating. Eventually, I get to the bottom. I'm like looking around like, well, fuck, what do I do now? And so, because I didn't know, paddle, I didn't know, I had no idea how to swim. I was actually deathly afraid of water for a long time. Because I think what used to happen was mom would, like, she had like this really strong shower head. And so I'd be taking a bath or whatever. And she's like brushing my hair really hard and stuff, and it terrified me of water for years and years. Well, anyway, so luckily I got lucky. There was a girl in like a one piece. She was swimming by, So I grabbed onto the side of her one piece, and luckily inertia, you know, she's like, what the fuck? And she didn't freak out or anything, try to kick me off. She just swam to the top, and she swims to the top. I go up after her. Man, I'm getting a little too into this. Go up after her, and I hold onto the side, and I'm just sitting there. And you know how when you get out from after almost drowning, and you know you're waterlogged, and you can't really understand things, and your ears popped and all that. And I remember I turned to her, and she said something, and I'm sure it was just like "what the fuck" or whatever the 8-year-old equivalent is, you know, like blah 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 blah. And I have no idea what she said because I was just like. Like got out of the pool, told the teacher, and it was just like a big what the fuck moment. And I don't know what happened after that, but shortly afterwards I stopped going to that school. Not necessarily because of that, but because of custody switching back. So, and that was that. So that was my first near-death experience, and that was about 8 years old or so. And so my next near-death experience happens. I was about 10 years old, and I've told this story a little bit before, but I didn't tell the full scope of the story. I just told it from how it affected the story I was telling at the time. Well, what happened was I I was in NJB. NJB was the National Junior Basketball League. It's where kids go and they play basketball, and they play basketball terribly. And there's always that one kid that like completely whoops everyone else's ass because he's just athletically, muscle memory, the master, kinesthetic genius, you know. And so I'm in there, and I actually didn't like it, but whatever. Well, at some point, I injured my foot. And so I told my dad. My dad's like, okay, let's go to the hospital. We went to the hospital, and we're going through all the you know, like the blood pressure and the temperature and all that. We're going through all that stuff. And the pediatrician, it's this lady I knew, and she was a really nice lady. I really wish I could remember her name. She was this really awesome lady. She's listening to my heart with a stethoscope. And she's like, you know, like a long time, like, that's weird. No one's ever done that before. And my dad's like, well, what's going on? She's like, I hear an echo. I hear a murmur. Like, I don't know. And then we went and did the EKG or whatever the scan's called. And it turned out I had a hole in my heart. It's called atrial septal defect or septum defect. It's something like that. Essentially what it is for those who don't know how the heart works, you got 4 chambers in your heart, and each of them pumps out blood. It takes blood in, or it takes oxygen in, pumps blood in, oxygenates the blood, mixes it together, and then pumps it back out to all your various veins and arteries, etc., and the brain, and etc. So, well, the hole was making it so that in one of those chambers, the blood that was already had oxygen in it was leaking back down into the chamber where it goes to get oxygen, the mixing process, which is a big no-no, because if that goes on long enough, you're dead by 20s, probably in your 20s. And because your heart just hardens and it can't do its job anymore, and it just stops beating and you're dead. So that was really close, but luckily they caught that when I was 10, and I ended up going to Kaiser Permanente up in LA, the hospital out here. And at the time, you know, they were the most medically whatever experienced crew with open heart surgery. So literally 10-year-old me, you know, they put me on the table, they cut me open, they sprayed my chest open, and they took tissue and they sewed the hole. And they did a fucking phenomenal job. I've never had issues with it since. I don't know if the scar is visible. Kind of visible, but I had like feeding tubes in my belly, feeding tubes over here, and a big scar right here. So it was in the hospital for a week. It was super awkward too, because like I already told you, my parents were divorced. My dad took me, but my mom found out. So when I wake up, my mom's sitting on one side of the bed, my dad's sitting on the other side of the bed. And you know how parents are when like they're trying to be good to their kid, but they're also doing like that passive aggressive sniping at each other. And even as a kid, I could pick up on it. Man, was it awkward. But anyway, so all those guys saved my life, so I'm really appreciative of that, my pediatrician and all the surgeons, you know, the medical staff, the nurses, etc. And so I got really lucky there, because, you know, I could have been dead 12 years ago or more, if they hadn't caught that. Now, there's another near-death story. I think it happened after this. And this one's my fault for sure, because those first two, they were just basically BS ones. This one's my fault. So I used to hang out in, this was long before the days of like the internet, guys, of back when people used to roam the neighborhoods and, you know, everyone take their bikes and go out and explore and go to people's houses. Well, in this case, me, my buddy Dustin McCoy, and another buddy of ours, Vincent, we were around 5th grade or 4th grade. We went to, we took our bikes and we decided we're going to explore this abandoned building. And it was like a big, it looked like, not thinking about it now, it looks like it was like a big old residential compound, like sometime in was that early 90s or late 80s, whenever it was. Well, anyway, so we're exploring this building, and we all think we're all badasses, right? Because we've been playing video games. So, like, Vincent had a chain. I had, like, a big block, a wood block I could throw at people, and it was going to knock them out, like, in the video games. And I forget, I had, like, some type of weapon. I forget what it was. I think it was just, like, a little bat or something. Like, not a real bat, but, like, one of those little mini... It was pretty bad. And so we all think we're badasses because we're 10 or 9 years old or whatever, and... So we're exploring this place, and it turns out, because Dustin comes up to me at a point, he's like, "Hey man, I think there's some homeless people here." Like, bro, we'll kick their ass, you know, even though we're just like little kids. And so, well, we got separated at one point, and these homeless guys eventually picked up that we were there, and so they started looking for us. And so I hid behind one of the doors. And one of them, he walks by the doorway and he stops because he had seen me through the little crack or whatever. And he comes and he looks at me and he just looks at me and I'm looking at them like, "Hi." You know, and he's like, "Come with me." And we were lucky that these guys didn't totally like beat the shit out of us or have some weird perversity or something. Because, you know, they were like 30, 40-year-old guys. I think there was a girl there too. And they got us all together and be like, "You can't be, you know, exploring dangerous places like this. What would your parents think? Go the fuck back home," and blah, 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 blah. And he basically starts chewing us out. Well, one of the guys, Vincent, he kicks this dude in the shin, and it totally, like, pissed him off. And I guess some other guy came out of nowhere that was on some type of, like, I don't know what it was. It was either drug fueled or some type of rage, and he just starts like throwing shit. He grabbed Dustin, and actually Dustin slipped out of his like sweater or jacket or whatever it was. He's like, "Run!" So we ran the fuck like crazy, and we could hear this dude running after us. And I don't know if he was super serious or what, but so we got to a point where we're on a second story on a window, and it's either jump or this guy catches up to us. So we fucking jumped. And, you know, it's a second story, so it's not like a death fall, but it hurt like a motherfucker because that was concrete, black concrete that we landed on. Just. So it's just like, fuck. And like, we get up real quick, run to our bikes, and we're all gimpy trying to get out of there. And like, "Don't ever come back or I'll fucking kill you." So I don't know what might have happened if that guy caught us. But we got lucky there, and we were lucky that the other guy, because I heard the girl screaming at him, "Stop, leave him alone, blah, blah, blah." So she probably distracted him for a little bit. And we got really lucky there. I don't know if that would have been a death scenario per se, but you never know what could have happened. So I'm going to count that one. Now, another one was when I was about 12 or 13. No, a little bit older, I think, 13 or 14. Somewhere around there. So that's like 7th, 8th grade-ish territory. I used to live up in Anaheim Hills with my dad in this hill community. It was pretty nice, uppity up type place. Well, they had a community pool. It was like this gated thing. But to get to the pool, you had to go up this hill. And there was a couple different ways. You could go up the street. There was a little stairway thing that was all dilapidated. And there's like snakes and shit on the grass on the hillside. And then there was also the one place you probably didn't want to go, which is, of course, the way we went. There's a little climbing thing. Basically like a sheer, I don't want to say cliff, but, you know, like a wall. And with bricks. Now the bricks were like every other column, so you could climb and climb and climb, and so we're thinking, okay, bricks, you know, solid. We've seen it ever since like Looney Tunes, like you run into a brick wall and the brick wall stays there. It's pretty solid, right? Well, what ends up happening is this is really high. I don't know exactly how high it was because below it's like another hill with like a bunch of hedges and all that. I'm sure poison ivy and whatever. And so we get it in our head, like me, two of my cousins, and my best friend. We get in our head we're going to climb this hill to go to the pool. Which in retrospect, it was probably like 80, 90 feet, maybe even 100 some feet up. And so, you know, we're climbing it and it's fine. Like the bricks are good, the bricks are good, the bricks are good, the bricks are good. I got to the last brick and I reach up to grab it and the brick fucking falls out right as I'm about to release the, you know, my grip on this brick to be like, you know. So luckily I didn't release it and I was just like, oh shit. And then my friend who was on the side of me is looking at me like, ha ha ha. And so if I would have fell from that height, that was about, you know, somewhere from 80 to 120 feet. So that was basically death unless I got really lucky and the bushes stopped my fall, which I don't think they could have. They could have stopped it a little bit, but I think I still definitely would have been really fucked up. And then, you know, you gotta have ambulances and stuff come and get me, and that would have taken some time. So possibly if I hit my head or whatever, I'm bleeding out. So that was another near-death experience. Now, the next near-death experience I have is I was out in Vegas. I remember I was working for my brother at the time, my older brother, and he he you know, we had a house and we had a jacuzzi. Oh my bad, sorry. Yo, I'm gonna answer a guy's comment. He had a jacuzzi and like a little side thing with like the cement thing. Well, the jacuzzi's on the back and the control for like the electricity is on the side. So it's like in the side yard. Well, at one point um the jacuzzi starts flooding. So I'm like, well, oh crap. Now I need to go to the electric thing and turn it off because otherwise I can't turn the thing off because it was screwed up somehow, so it wasn't powering down properly. Well, the jacuzzi's flooding at this point, and I hope you can see where I'm going with this. The jacuzzi's flooding down the side yard. There's water on the ground. And so I go over here, it's this little flip thing. You have to flip it up, and then you just basically hit the switch. Actually, I think I hit I had to hit the switch down. So you have to hit the switch down, and it turns off the power, right? Well, I'm a dumbass because my feet were in water right when I hit the switch. So right when I hit the switch, bzzz, and I'm freaking, you know how electricity can be paralyzes you, right? Because you. Oh, I felt that for a couple seconds, but luckily I had enough inertia to completely swipe down, but or not swipe down, but luckily it flicked off the power basically so that it wasn't shocking me anymore. But I instantly fell to the ground face first and I was submerged in the water. It was high enough to submerge my face so that, you know, depending on how badly I was shocked, if I would have got knocked out, that would have been it for me. I would have drowned in like, you know, a foot or whatever's worth of water. And if I hadn't been able to turn off the water, then who knows what would have happened at that point. That could have been started a fire or something like that with the whatever the hell that would be called, the charger or whatever. Getting well, you know what I mean. Like it could have exploded basically or shot out sparks or whatever. So I got pretty lucky there. Now let's see. I'm trying to think of my other near death. Oh yeah, so here's one. So when I moved back to California, it wasn't even, I think it was like 2 years later or so. I'm working for a mortgage company. And the mortgage company, the cool thing about them was they had like all this free food all the time. So you could go in, there'd be like Pat steak sandwiches and burgers, burritos, Mexican egg dish things, you know, Chinese, whatever. And it was really cool. Well, this one time they brought one of those, like the red egg and rice Mexican dish, whatever that's called. And and there was a big thing of it in the kitchen, so it's like free take. Okay, so we took some, ate it, didn't think anything of it. Worked that day, hang out with my buddy on Saturday. I start to get sick that Saturday night, and we had actually gone to Olive Garden. So I thought it was something like food poisoning from the Olive Garden, but it was like the worst feeling in the world, and like I couldn't even go into work until Wednesday because I actually had my car getting repaired. I was gonna go, you had to walk a distance to go get it, but it wasn't that far. If I'm not sick, but when I'm sick, it's like an eternity. It's like walking across the desert. So at some point on Tuesday, because I had to go back to work on Wednesday, I have this horrible, like the worst food poisoning you could get. Like there's some type of crazy bacterial thing in you, and I'm just like walking like real slow. You know, feel like I'm gonna throw up at any moment, but I need to get my car for work, right? So I go and I do that, and I get the car back, and then I go back in on Wednesday, and unbeknownst to me, everyone that was there almost had the same thing, and they were coughing because whatever was in that Mexican dish, uh, you know, it could have been some type of germ, it could have been, you know, some type of virus or whatever the hell was going on there. It affected everyone at the job. And there was a couple points in time because I couldn't keep anything down except applesauce. Applesauce was the only thing I could eat. So I would end up just like I went through like 2 jars of applesauce, and oh, it was terrible because it took me forever to figure out what I could keep down because I couldn't keep anything down for a while. And then I figured, I'm like, well, what would I eat if I'm a baby? Like applesauce. So blah, 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 blah. And I still do that to this day. If I ever have food poisoning, I'll just go get a jar of applesauce and keep it real simple. But I'm trying to think, are there any other deaths or ever got close to dying? Yeah, I can't really think of anything. I got in a couple car accidents. I guess I could tell one car accident story. Trying to think if there's anything. No. Okay, so the only other one is what was this? It was a little over a year ago, actually. So I went to pick up my buddy, who's been real good to me, my best friend out here, and he was without his car, and he's like depressed, and he's depressed fairly often. So I was like, "Hey, man, you know, you've done me a solid all my life. I'm gonna come get you. We'll go hang out. We'll go eat. We'll watch whatever, and then I'll take you back." And that's what we did. Well, um, I go and I pick him up, and it's about like a 20-minute process, and then I'm driving him back. Well, as I'm driving him back, I'm on the express lane because I don't know if everyone has it where they live, but in California, the express lane, basically you need 2 people to ride it, or else they give you a ticket. It's a stupid thing. They should just open up the lane for everybody, but whatever. So, well, anyway, so we're going really fast. It's something like 90 to 100 miles per hour. And it's fine because it's clear, you know, there's one car ahead of me and it's clear he's going as fast as I am. Well, we get to this point where we go, it's under a bridge and then it kind of curves around a little bit so that you can't specifically see very far away until you get to a certain point when you're turning. Well, all of a sudden, the car in front of me starts braking like crazy. And my buddy actually had to point it out to me. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I remember I looked, you know, I started paying more attention to what I was doing. I look up, I'm like, oh crap. Well, there was a car line, like, you know, like we're here, let's say. There's a car line stopped, like full stopped all the way, like right around, you know, a little bit that way. So he's hitting the brakes, I'm hitting the brakes, but I'm not slamming on the brakes because I don't know what's behind me. And I know whatever's behind me might have the same situation to where they don't know, you know, they're going to run into a completely stalled out fast lane. Because usually the fast lane's at least moving at all times. It's almost never completely stalled unless there's a real bad accident. So anyways, he's braking, I'm braking. We're getting closer to the cars, and we're going around like 40 to 45. And we're right at the cars. So this guy, he swerves into the left lane, the guy that's in front of me, and I follow suit. But he hard brakes at that point. And he still had room to move. He shouldn't have hard broke. So at that point, I'm sitting there and I'm still slower braking because I don't want to fucking, A, I don't want to snap our necks. And then B, you know, I don't want to hit anybody, but I don't want someone to hit me from behind. So at that point, I had about a second to decide. I'm like, okay, I'm either going to hit this guy or I'm going to hit the wall at about 40 miles per hour. So I was just like, hit the wall, just bam. And luckily, the car I drive, it is like this Ford Explorer, like old car. So it's like a little tank. And it was funny because, like, I stopped us from hitting anything, especially the dude in front, which I was happy about because I looked later on. There was his, you know, a guy, his wife, I assume his wife, a couple kids. So I went to my passenger, my buddy. I'm like, dude, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. And then, you know, we got back into the lanes and we went about our business, and there was no other things beyond that. But that was pretty close, man, because if that car line had been stopped a little bit closer, I don't know what we would have done, because we would have been going like 80, 70 miles per hour or even braking. And so that was a cautionary tale, and I actually drive slower to this day now, especially when I'm in situations like that because of that, because you never know what's going to happen. And that could have been the end of me right there. So, it's funny because he's like, oh man, it's my friend. He's like, oh man, I'm so much better into your driving skills now. You just need to slow down, but at least you know how to react. And I'm like, bro, I played Mario Kart. I played Grand Theft Auto. I know these things. So anyways, guys, that's all my near-death stories. So if you got anything, let me know. Hopefully some of the stories entertain you guys, and catch you guys later on. Peace out.